Hello, REBBL GMAN Division 4D. It is I, your recap of GMAN Milk. And here we are with the recap of Game Week 7. Okay, so this is being recorded now, and luckily I think every game that can be played has been played. I'm doing this, however, solo again because Wednesday is very, very busy for me. Tuesday has been busy for me. Thursday's going to be very busy for me, gone all day. And then it's either too late for a recap whatsoever. You want this one to have a punctual time, and this is the best time for me to do it. And also, I can't even really spend any free time that I do have on Wednesday and on Tuesday to record a recap. That isn't now because I have a tabletop tournament on Saturday, so I have to paint all my stuff that I haven't painted yet. So it's just going to be me today, but luckily this isn't too long of a show anyway because of the lack of level ups in certain teams. Yeah, it's not your fault. It's just the fact that you didn't get enough SPP here and there. But either way, we start off the game week with a 2-1 victory. Mattia's team, the very necromantic Necros, beat GFI Joe's 4 Throttle Rotters. Well, it seems like Mattia is now getting back into the swing of things after that horrific loss in the early game weeks of his Adjup Wolf. He's getting his wins, 2 on the spot, I believe, two on the run. So that's a fantastic result there against a very good Nurgle team coached by a very good coach. It appears that the necromantic team got out blocked, got out injured, but probably the maneuverability of the Wolves managed to carry the day there in terms of SPP. Much better there for GFI Joe, but a lot of that is injury SPP. All in all, very good result there for Mattia. His season's starting to improve, and that is definitely fortunate after some very hard games in the early season. Bloodhorse also has had a bit of a comeback this game week by winning 1-0 over the Legion of Dead Metal. 20 arm breaks to 5 arm breaks definitely speaks the story. 57 blocks to 37 blocks kind of explains the story. 4 KOs to 2 injuries could be better, but I'm sure the Chorfs won't complain with a 1-0 victory, even if they could have gotten more injuries and whatnot. With them MVP as well on that Claw and Guard Chorf, it bodes well for the Chorfs and their attempts to pull themselves together and rebuild after what has been a very brutal season for them. Hopefully now they're back up from 12-60 like they were in the beginning of the game week to something a bit more significant now. Unfortunately, with Blood in the Sand and Rambunctious Rebels, Masterful actually won't be around to play this game week, as far as I remember from him saying in the Division 4D chat. If that's the case, we can consider that a loss. I'm not sure how the SPP falls. We won't know until the admin decision has been made. But for someone who is not flying high, but is quite close to a challenger position, that would be a massive blow for Masterful's campaign. Very unfortunate there. We already covered the 4-0 victory of Mirkwood Athletic versus Smashy Severa briefly in the last one. We can go into a little bit more detail now. Outblocked. The Pro-Elves are outblocked, but nevertheless doesn't really matter if things just go horrifically wrong for the Norse. The Lightning Bolt tells one story, the other story is, well, I'm not too sure. Wasn't able to watch the game. But a 4-1 victory is phenomenal there from a very struggling Pro-Elf team this season. T-Cole's own fortunes have been up and down. But definitely, congratulations to the Pro-Elf team in this game week. Speaking of horrible games, the response from Yasarian after playing more Plovac was, well, that was miserable, I believe. 2-0 victory isn't the craziest thing in the world. 5 KOs, 1 injury. It's always hard. Let's look at the wake up of the KOs. 2-3. Not particularly impressive. Dice rolls 1 for Rapscallywags. That's a lot of 1s and a lot of 2s. And depending when they happen, could be absolutely game-changing for poor old Yusarian. 7 successes to 5 failures there for the wild animal. Again, another story. 1 success and 2 failures on the loners. There's a lot of things here that says Yusarian had a really awful game. Diving tackle failed twice. His dodge was 13 failures, 16 successes. Yeah. Yusarian had a horrible game, and the dice definitely say that for going for it's the 3. Yeah, that's bad. But Plovac, who is doing very well, I believe he is 2nd right now, will be very happy with the win. But it really takes the wind out of Yusarian's sails, who was also similarly high-flying. Next game, a 2-0 victory there for the Mark and Nurgle over the Halfling team. Not a massive surprise. Nurgle just doing what they need to do, scoring a win. 2-0 ain't bad. Let's look into the game. This is actually very surprising on the statistics. 12 armor breaks on the Halfling team to 7 armor breaks on the Nurgle team means the Halfling team were actually more brutal. 4 KOs inflicted to 2 KOs, 2 injuries. Very equal. And the block succeeded 26 to 22. Also very, very, very equal. Which is something you just do not expect whatsoever. Dodges were actually very bad for the Sunty Seaman as well. So this kind of really boggles the mind a bit. Is there any landings? Probably not. Yeah, there are 2 landings. Both fails, which are 2 fails, 1 success. Again, considering this is a 4-edged piece that is usually being thrown. Seems very unlucky to poor Bungee Man in that sense. But then again, we look at this statistic. 1 bribe failed for the Mark and Nurgle. This just seems like a very bizarre game, I must say. But congratulations to Helgen for getting the 2-0 there. Bizarre. You make 22 blocks, and then 12 of those blocks end up in arm breaks. Even if they are also factoring fouls, and that can't be ignored. That is still a phenomenal outcome there for the Nurgle to an extent. And the final game is the high-flying team of Gunnerside, his great high-elf team, unbeaten, has finally met its match. He finally lost his first game of the game week, of the season. His first loss was a 2-1 loss to me. In my Underworld team versus his high-elf team. What to say about this game? The KOs really sort of started mounting up for him. 2 KOs inflicted, 3 injuries inflicted compared to 4 KOs inflicted, 1 kill. Seems fairly equal. And with his own mighty blow hitting things like Stunty, yeah. Although a lot of the damage was done to my 3 strength pieces, I believe. I think he took 2 out. 1 permanently. Rest in peace. But I did get them more blocks. By his second offense, he had lost a lot of players. Because there was a Wizard Stadium in play. His Wizard Stadium didn't really do anything for him. He double failed in his sequence to steal the ball for me. Which of course is unfortunate, but it does happen. While my Wizard was kept until pretty much the last few turns and single-handedly secured me the second score. Well, I say single-handedly, I started to do a 4+3+ to get it away in the end due to a very tense and nervy passage of play. This was a very interesting and very fun game between me and Gunnerside. I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was just a very great positioning game from both coaches. We both made mistakes, but the mistake that he made on about turn 13 to 14 probably did him in slightly more than my mistakes. And in the end, 2-1 victory to us is great. We lost our non-killer blitzer, our guard might blow blitzer, but he can always be replaced. And that's that. Now, I've got a very fun little tool for all of us to look at. Firstly, we're going to look at the actual leaderboards for now. With that loss on the game week, Gunnerside wasn't able just to keep his amazing run steaming ahead. The gap between him and Morplovak at second place is now narrowed to only 2 points. So the playoffs once again remaining competitive. Everyone else has sort of fallen by the wayside quite a bit. Yasarian and me, and also Masterful. So that should be Yasarian, Masterful, and I are the ones most likely to be challenging for that second challenger spot. We can also still make playoffs, and this is something I'll talk about in a bit. But Yasarian and Masterful losing is a big blow for their chances of going for the playoffs this season. While my victory sort of drags me up, so I'm happy where I am because of that. But definitely, this is looking like a bit of a race between Plovak and Gunnerside to take, go over one another to reach that OG original playoff spot. Anything can happen, and that's why it's worth talking about this cool new tool. So this is the prediction tool made by Dranar, which takes the REBBL.net API, all the results that we have, puts them into some sort of statistical simulator, and tells us what are the most probable outcomes in terms of who is reaching playoffs, who is reaching the Challenger Cup. So let's talk about it. Still, because of his amazing start in the season, the Sunbaked Seaguard, Gunnerside's team, is looking at about a 50% chance, 53% chance of making the playoffs still. If he continues to win and continues to put in the performance that he has been, let's say he goes on an unbeaten streak again now that he's lost to me, it's looking like he won't be able to be touched. He's still 2 points ahead, you know. He has at least a small margin of error. If he draws, then Plovak could only really equal him in points. And, you know, so he's still kind of in a very happy place. Plovak is looking the next most likely. He has a very solid chance of making playoffs. 24% is pretty darn massive compared to everyone else's percentage of making the playoffs. While being on 44% for his Challenger Cup possibilities mean that all in all, these two coaches, Gunnerside is about an 86% chance of going to some sort of playoff. So he should be very happy with how the season is going thus far. Obviously, the breakdown here is, you know, what's more likely for him to be first, second, third, you know. But because of those two Challenger Cup spots that we get in Division 4D, very unlikely he won't be in some sort of playoff system at some point in the postseason or the playoff season. Plovak also is more likely to go to something than not, because he's now sitting at 68% roughly. So he's also looking very, very likely to go somewhere. Whilst it's also worth pointing out that the next four all have very good chances of making something. Masterful's statistic here is a little bit skew-whiff because we don't know how his loss is going to affect this. If this is a confirmed loss, then I'm sure Yasarian and I rocket straight up there. And it's his 8% head over us gets more equally distributed, I think. I'm not a statistician by any means. But, nevertheless, Masterful, if you say we're all about equal, there is probably about a 30% chance of both Masterful, Yasarian, and I from all making either the playoffs or the Challenger Cup. These next three have a fantastic shot of making something, and if we consider like Gunnerside and Plovak as definitely, without some sort of massive cataclysmic, choke, without some massive choke on their behalf, if they will wrap up first and second between those two, there will be a very interesting fight between not only just Masterful, Yusarian, and I, but also it's worth pointing out that Mattia, after his storming last 2 game weeks, in addition to the very solidly performing GFI Joe, also have very strong chances to leapfrog over and potentially, if things go their way, score a success against us. And they can go third. I know for a fact that I haven't played Matty yet. I think I played him last game week, so you just don't know. The schedule's there. It's also not completely out of the woods. Or not out of the woods. Not out of possibility, the realm's possibility for Rift Cannon to also still make a Challenger Cup spot. His playoff percentage is so marginal it's not worth talking about. Same thing really for Mattia. GFI Joe's getting there, and it's obviously unlikely for even these 3 to reach something. But a good 9% of doing something either way is still very, very... It's still a reason for Rift Cannon to try his hardest to win every game. And after the sort of the seasons he's had, it could be tempting to say, well, I don't mind if I lose, I don't mind if I draw, it's more worth rebuilding. It's worth rebuilding and then doing something like, say, handing off to a centaur or a blocker or whatever. But basically, this is the cutoff here with Rift Cannon of who is most likely, or not even most likely, who has the real dark horse potential to either claim a playoff spot or a Challenger Cup spot. And considering that's most of the league still, I think it's just over half. Might just be perfectly half. 1, 2, 3. No, over half of the league is still in with a shout of potentially getting a playoff spot in some form or another. So the league is still pretty tight. Yeah, it's most likely that Gunner's side and Plovac will get something. It's unlikely they'll drop out of any of those positions. But hey, the second Challengers playoff spot is very, very up for grabs. While of course, 3% from Helgen's team, from Klepslam's team, from Wraithguard's team. It was worth pointing out here that Wraithguard with a win, if he is assuredly given a win for this game week, he jumps up a bunch of points and probably leapfrogs over Helgen quite solidly. These 3 have something in them, but it's worth pointing out that T-Cold, Wheelie, and Bungeeman, it's very unlikely it's very unlikely you'll be anywhere in terms of contention for these 2 spots. And of course, we now have firmly the Halflings cannot at all get any of those positions whatsoever. So, commiserations to Bungeeman. But regardless, let's move on now. We'll come back to that tool every single week when we can, because that'll change as people win and people lose. Nothing's set in stone, there's just probabilities. I thought it was a very interesting tool to look at either way. But let's look at the teams. Let's look at the teams for now. And this game week, unfortunately, sees quite a lack of level ups. Really, unfortunately. I do not believe Krebsland got anything. I don't think Matu got anything. Doesn't look like it. Rift Cannon got something, but he got it on his blocker, who hasn't yet got his level up, so he can't even look at that. I assume that's just going to be Mighty Blow. If he's got a double, just ignore it, I'd say. That's what I would probably, if I was given the option of that level up and it was a double for something like Dodge, which is a useful jump up, I'd say you just want Mighty Blow. You just want your Claw Mighty Blow to be working, because your team has like barely any teeth at this point. Masterful obviously hasn't played, so he doesn't get anything. T-Cold, who reminded me as well, he did actually pick up piling on his Strength Blitzer, or his Berserker rather, as a consequence of playing Wheelie during our recap last week when I was with Bungeeman. Fantastic pickup. I'm not sure why I ignored that, but there you go, T-Cold, we finally covered it. the team is definitely recovering from its knock. It has some very star players. It just needs to like round out again with those players that it lost earlier in the season. Yasarian got nothing in terms of level ups. I'd like to say Helgen got 1 level up on a Pestigor. Yeah, he got a wrestle on Prince Insomnia, which is a very positive pickup in my opinion. You now have a Sacker in the making. He can get probably tackle next. 2 heads is a very enticing opportunity as well. I'd say 2 heads is probably what I would say, because I just like how 2 heads gives you a lot of maneuverability. He's lost Buckfast Barnes, as we said, from the last game week. Gunner side got a single level up. Hawaii roll a double for guard. Brilliant. Once again, this is an insanely stupid high elf team that just goes from strength to strength. He lost his move down niggled blodge thing. I can't remember if it was guard. I don't think it was. He lost the blodge linesman to me, and he also had his mighty blows, sidestep, blodge, tackle, blitzer, MG'd by me. So this team is once again still pretty amazing. It has everything that it kind of needs. It can still use its tackle next game week. It just has less of a bite for the next game week, which could be important, could not be. I got nothing, unfortunately. I'm very close to getting stuff, but what is important to point out is that my blitzer there, Tachyon Defyon, originally that was Guillotine, and Guillotine died. He got punched to death by an elf. Apo deadened to dead. So he needs to be replaced. He needs to be built up. Hopefully next game week will allow me to. We'll say for the lore that Tachyon's real name is Defyon. He is the adoptive older brother of Tachyon the Goblin. Very much like an Oilian and Telemonian Ajax kind of deal. In reality, I just forgot that I had a Tachyon Goblin. The halflings got a level up. Yay. I think that was Doom Darrell who got a level up. He just got sidestep. It's either he got sidestep or Samwise Scurvy got something. I'm not too sure. Let's do my research. So, this game week, nothing like dead air on a on a solo podcast. Yeah, it was Doom Darrell got sidestep, so it's nothing special. No mighty blow, no block. Not much to say. We were breezing through this. Plovac got a lot of level ups though. He had a fantastic outing there against Usarian. Blodgesaurus. Wow. I believe he also got a strength up Saurus. So the Saurus that leveled up in that game were Zlav Zatlan and Zotis. Okay, so the strength up was already there. We covered that last week. Yeah, we hated that. We was like, this is disgusting. He got Mighty Blow on Zla, and that got Blodge. So, this team is stupid, and the Croc score is out. Hooray. Doesn't really matter when you have essentially a better Croc score. Well, not better, but non-negatrated Croc score in this Adjut, in his Strength Up Saurus. I'm so glad I don't have to play this team anymore. I'm so glad I beat this team. Or not beat it, I drew it. When I say beat, I mean I'm glad that I beat the schedule and don't have to play this team anymore, because this team is unbeatable in my view. It has so many strength ups. All of the sort of the Thesauruses are really firing on all cylinders apart from this one. I would be 100% mystified if this team doesn't make playoffs, or not playoffs, but playoffs or challenger spot. Any of those 3 spots. If it doesn't end up first, second, or third, I'll be completely surprised. The team is stupid. Stupidly good, that is. And of course, coached by a stupidly good coach. Wheelie, we covered again. He got his move up. He got his edge up. So, yeah, great stuff. The Bunkers Rebels haven't played. The good news is that their SPP boon is unlikely to level up. Well, actually, it could level up that Lionsman, it could level up the Assassin, it could level up the Witch Elf. The good thing is that will be back next week. Downtown will be back next week, because essentially the bye week gives them MG clear. And GFI Joe, I can't remember if he got something. We'll go check. I think, once again, GFI Joe didn't get anything this game week either. Yeah, he didn't. So this, once again, closes out a game week of no one getting anything, apart from if you're Plovac. Or the odd one level here and there. Very unfortunate. Do better. Division, do better. So, because that entire thing is a very short exercise in covering, let's now just go on to the predictions for next game week. So we have the Full Throttle Rotters versus Bloodhorse. GFI Joe's team's a lot more healthy, but it's a lot less developed. It has a season less of development or so. The good news is that in terms of out-and-out killers, so you know, your Mighty Blow Claw, both will be matching each other. The amount of busts on that Bloodhorse team could be enough to really punish, potentially, Rift Cannon for keeping them. The armor down means that the Bull Centaur's a target. The move down on his killing, sacking Bull Centaur means it's going to be a lot less involved, potentially. I mean, it still moves at, like, de facto weight due to sheer feet and sprint. But it will be quite... This could be very hard for Rift Cannon. But I will still predict it a 2-1 victory. I just think that the Dwarf team is still pretty effective. It's still much more of a machine than a Season 2-ish Nurgle. So 2-1 potentially, 1-0 more so. I'd say 1-0 was very much on the cards here. But we'll see. Maybe GFI Joe can surprise me here. Next we're going to have Blood on the Sand versus Very Necromantic Necros. Mattia has put forward a very impressive run for the last 2 game weeks. But his team still very much looks kind of rookie-ish. It's really still struggling. And Blood on the Sand is pretty much the complete package. He has an amazing blitzer, even if it is moved down. Both of his throw rolls are amazing, and of course he still has very high-performing Tomb Guardians. Those Tomb Guardians will definitely be a terror in the night for all of his 8 armor pieces, and the Flesh Golems will definitely struggle to do anything against those pieces. For that reason, a lot of it depends on the kick. And also with inducements, the Necromantic can get Wizard, and again, I always say anything that has fast moving players and the Wizard against Khemri can really do a hell of a lot if Masterful is sort of caught out in terms of his positioning. But because I always predict it's going to be like Masterful's is going to be shown up this game week because of that Wizard, and he never is. Masterful will take this from me just because he has a much more complete team. There is no Edge Dwarf either to sort of exploit the Wizard as much because it's dead now. So I would say Masterful, even if he gets bolted, can still very much take a victory either way. So Masterful is going to win that one 2-1 for me. Smashy Severa versus Legion of Dead Metal, so that's Necro versus Norse. T-Gold's been having a bit of a hard time. Krebslam has been having a sort of middling season. Hard to say. The Necromantic team has its removable potential due to the fact that it has Mighty Blow and Tackle as well on a white. But at the same time, those Norse can give it as good as they get, but better because they have Mighty Blow and piling on. Hard to call, but I will say I'm very much predicting this to be a 2-1 victory for Legion of Dead Metal for a key reason. Legion of Dead Metal, let's look at it. We'll be getting a Wizard. They have Tackle, Mighty Blow. They have the Edge 4 Wolf of 9 movement. That is enough for me to say that it's very likely and a big potential for T-Cold to have the ball sacked and run away with, and there's nothing he can do. for that reason, 2-1 to Legion of Dead Male is looking very likely unless the Wizard fails. That's my prediction. Rambunctious Rebels versus Ramp Scallywags. A little bit of a tough game to call. The truth of the matter is that the Skaven give away a lot of inducements. They give away a Wizard, definitely. But he can also choose to ignore the Wizard, Wraithguard, and take something like Hubris and go for a bit of damage, as we mentioned in last game week when we were suggesting things he could do to Khemri at the same sort of price point. Hubris could definitely do a lot of damage to those rats. He has the maneuverability to sort of ignore a lot of the dangers Yusarian has, but again, it's worth pointing out again that Yusarian has Claw Mighty Blow now. He has fantastic Sackers. This is a hard one to call. How babyish that Dark Elf team is really kind of strikes me. And considering Wraithguard's been having an okay season, but Yusarian has been doing quite a lot with what was a busted team, has gone from strength to strength, apart from this anomaly of a game week. Or, if less so, an anomaly. I guess it was an anomaly because of how bad the dice looked like were for the poor Skaven. But apart from this anomaly of a game week, therefore, I still think that Yusarian is doing so well that on strength of performance alone, I definitely think the Rapscallywags will claim this. 3-1. This is going to be kind of a shootout game for me. Definitely. Then we then have Mark of Nurgle versus Mirkwood Athletics. That is the Nurgle versus the Pro Elf team. Tough to call. Mark of Nurgle is now very, very bloaty. 1820 TV. So they give away a Wizard. A Wizard can be slightly scummed for an extra 10k. Well, actually, no, you just get rid of that 10k and boom, you have a Wizard without having to pay out of pocket. This team is pretty much healthy apart from that linesman who needs to be fired, by the way, Wheelie. And with all the edge up and move up, I'm going to give this one to the Pro Elves. A Wizard on the Pro Elf team is fantastic. He has great movement, great agility. Doesn't matter if the Nurgle have stink. The Pro Elf team just have a much, much better offensive capacity and also a capacity to defend. Especially with Wizard. If the Wizard fizzes, then we could see a 2-1 grind on the behalf of the Nurgle, but it's much more likely to me that Mirkwood Athletic will claim a victory here. But I could be proven wrong. Next we have a title decider. Okay, so I was talking about, okay, what happens if, say, Gunnerside draws and then Morplovac draws, or wins rather, then they'd just be matching. This game week is a decider. If Plovac wins, he gets to be on top. He gets to be the one who is flying high. Only by 1 point. It keeps the league much more interesting and much more competitive. But if Gunnerside wins, he instantly reclaims that lead that he lost this game week back, essentially in an instance. Because it's worth pointing out again, we'll go back to the tables and all that. At least on my end, I'm not going to show you guys, unfortunately. But Gunnerside is 18 points, Plovac is 16 points. A victory for Gunnerside therefore takes it from him being on 16. Like this, it goes from an 18-16 difference to being a 21-16 difference. If that happens, Gunnerside, it can't be touched unless he just collapses in a bunch of game weeks and lets Plovac win game after game. So the 5-point cushion that originally Gunnerside, I think, had can be regained in this game week, but it can be lost entirely. For Plovac going on 19, Gunnerside 18, and then if one of the 12-point wins, the gap still there's still going to be a gap of about 4 points, unfortunately. But it's a lot better than the gap right now that exists between top and third, which is 6 points. So this is a very important title-deciding game, and you had to ask me who I think is going to win. It's not a clear answer, but I think I know who I want to win, purely to keep the league competitive, and that is I want Plovak to win this, because if Plovak wins this, we, the little guys in 3rd and 5th, have a much easier chance of getting to the playoffs if we put in good performances and they can put in bad performances. In terms of TV, there isn't enough to give Gunside much more than a bribe if he scums it. Actually, no, let's see. 70... What is that? So 60. Yeah, so a bribe can be scummed. What's more likely going to happen is you're going to pay just 50k for the babe to wake up people in a 3+. But the key thing about the Gunside's team is Gunaside is missing his Blodge Tackle Blitzer with Mighty Blow. That'll be massive. He can't go skink hunting as well. He does have tackle, so he can still just hit it with normal modifiers and hope Stunty does something, and that'll be fine. But the Mighty Blow means that Plovak is a little bit less scared of what he has to offer. There is no way, obviously, that the Hiles would ever win a bashing engagement. Good things, they have a certain amount of guard to help here and there in certain spots. How fantastic that team is means an elf result can happen. An elf result can be like, it can still be his sources are running around trying to deal with things. The lack of tackle entirely on that Plovak team. They could do nothing to all the Blodge pieces. Which, if all the Blodge holds up, then this is much more likely looking like a Gunaside win. But if Gunaside can't get the position that he wants, and he can't do enough against the Lizards on their own offense, a 2-1 grind could very well be on the cards where Plovak wins this. This is way too hard for me to predict, and I don't really wish to predict it, just because of how difficult it is. It's not clear-cut in any way. So therefore, what I'm just going to say is, I hope Plovak wins this just to keep the league competitive, but Gunside's looking to bounce back. Best of luck to him. And the final game of the week is the Halflings versus the Underworld. Well, that's me. To put it briefly, I have a bunch of pieces that I want to level up. 2 throws who are just a touchdown away from rolling next level. I need a new blitz that I need to sort of build up. This is a game where I give away a decent amount of inducements. I do give away about 400, so a Master Chef and Deep Root can really hurt me badly. The one positive I would say is because it's almost certain, I'm almost certain he has a Knuckles Alter. Oh, he doesn't. Oh. Well, that's a positive thing, because if this was at home, I'd be giving him a free Knuckles Alter. So, he gets a little bit less out of his inducements, but Bungyman's team, the 4-edged Halfling is enough to literally win him a game, potentially. The trees doing what they need to do, they could outcast me, like, because of how high variable Underworld is, he can just ruin my day entirely, and there's nothing I can do about it. So I'm not going to be saying confidently, oh, this should be a 3-0 victory. By no means. I'd be very happy if everything that I want to happen happens. If I get my level ups and I win, very good. If things can happen, and I'm going to be dreading that. It's worth pointing out in OCC, another league, I have played 6 games thus far, I think. And I'm unbeaten. I have won 1, draw 4. It's been a bit of a fucking hard season for me, I must admit. But I only lost 1 game at least. But that was against Flings. So I know the terror that Flings can bring upon the world. It'll be a very scary game. You don't want to lose this. And Bungyman has been very unlucky in the last few game weeks, I feel like. Looking at his stats and all that. Also, from what he said in his own guest spot on the recap last week. So it still should be a 2-0 or 3-0 victory. I have tackle here and there. I have Rackle here and there. I have Mighty Blow and piling on. I even have claw horns for easy 3 dies, and even if I want to go hunting for trees, I can go hunting for trees if given the option. But this will be a tough game either way. Should be a win for me though. Hopefully so. But that is the predictions. Those are the predictions for game week 8. And with the end of that, it's also the end of the recap. Sorry again for the solo show. Just had no time. Hope you can all understand. A very exciting game week coming up though. The league is in a prime position to be completely shaken up, depending on what happens between Plovac and the Gunner side, but also if Yasarian, Masterful, GFI Joe, and even I manage to have successful and fruitful game weeks, that top of the table is starting to really cement itself as who is the real challenger for any given spot. It's still quite tight as we looked at the statistics and the probabilities of who can go where. A bunch of people aren't out of the picture entirely, but definitely we're looking at the top 6 are the ones who are more likely to be competing than anyone else. But until then, it'll be me signing out for another game week. I hope you all enjoy the recap. I will be bringing a host on next week, most likely. I don't have any work scheduled for next week that would interfere with anything going on. But I could also have something. You never know. We are now getting to sort of the home stretch of the league. After next game week, we'll have 4 games, I think. 4 or 5 games. Math be hard. 9, 10, 11, yeah, 5 games. We'll have 5 games. So what happens here is all the more calculistic to a team's chances of succeeding and failing when it comes to claiming those final 3 spots for a playoff of sorts. But until then, it's me, Chug, signing out, and have a very successful game week, all of you.